Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about the latest patch as well as some bugs that have been popping up, including something that's happened to me recently where my gun has downgraded. Let's start off by talking about update 1.8.84, and this was released yesterday as of November 10th, 2023. I guarantee you some of you were not aware of this update, which I was not as well. So then I dug deep into the website there for just a second. I was like, well, where's the update information? Then if you go down below, you can see everything. We are going to begin with graphics because as of late, there was a huge issue with the DLSS so that it would automatically reset itself for whatever reason. Not only has that been fixed, but they've also made DLS a lot better, as well as fixed a few grain and sharpening issues. As you can see right here, it says, quote, improved DLSS overall stability. Fixed an issue with DLSS frame generation where occasionally a blur effect could be seen and a screen could turn black. Fixed an issue with DLSS frame generation where occasionally blurring or ghosting artifacts could be seen on characters. Fixed an issue where some grain/sharpening could be observed in very dark areas with DLSS enabled. End quote. Now, as I mentioned at the start there, they have fixed various issues with DLSS. So it's good to see this has been accomplished because I'll be honest, FSR is pretty crap compared to DLSS. For example, you can see some of the improvements on the screen here, as well as when it comes down to the settings, there's various things that you can change. They have also made some changes to the UI. As I mentioned earlier, there was the whole issue with how the quality to performance was switching back and forth. So pretty much the DLS would reset itself. Now that has been fixed because it says right here, quote, fixed an issue where DLSS preset was defaulting from quality to performance or vice versa upon exiting the display settings. Fixed an issue where DLSS frame generation couldn't be turned on correctly unless DLSS is enabled. Improved display settings for force VSync off when DLSS frame generation is turned on. And last but not least, quote, improved display settings DLSS localization, end quote. So far it seems that this recent update has fixed a lot of issues with DLSS, so it's definitely good to see that these issues have been resolved and overall making optimization a lot better in Starfield. Continuing on towards the last and final notes here for gameplay. Quote, fixed an issue where occasionally the camera could shake incorrectly during traveling, grav jumping, docking, or landing transitions, end quote. This problem right here I've yet to come across, so I mean, if you guys have, then cool, it's been fixed. But as for other things like quests, there's no mention of anything being fixed in terms of quests. This right here can be quite disappointing because a majority of you are still experiencing some game-breaking bugs, such as you cannot complete the ending or go to the Unity, or perhaps you have a door that's currently locked. These of course are just some examples, but let me know if there's something else you have been experiencing. I've been checking out the comments each day and it's quite surprising how many bugs are in this game. Speaking of bugs, we are going to then continue on and talk about something a developer has mentioned about a mission that's going to be fixed. Then I'm going to show you something that's completely breaking my game to where my weapons have now downgraded. With that being said, let's go ahead and travel over towards Bethesda.net because a developer has updated a quest that has been fixed. Quote, War Relics UC Vanguard faction mission. We are aware of an issue where War Relics may not start after completing the mission, the devils you know. We are also aware of an issue where Kaiser may not move when you are supposed to follow him. This issue will be resolved in a future update. End quote. If the mission War Relics has really been causing you some concern as of late, then you should feel some sort of relief because it has now been fixed. Except we do not have the update just yet. And I do not think this has been added to the beta, yet once it has been updated and I can see the patch notes, I will let you know right away if it has been fixed. Now let's go ahead and talk about the downgraded weapon bug. As you can tell right here, I took out an ecliptic enemy. He actually had this right here, which is an explosive Grendel. I was super excited because the stats on this is pretty good. Furious, corrosive, and explosive. Come on, man. That's absolutely amazing. But then guess what? I loaded my save up the next day to find out that it has completely downgraded. Not only did it downgrade, but it also is now invisible and I can no longer view the weapon in the display. This bug right here, I'm not too sure if it has existed previously in the latest patch or if this is just something that popped up in the beta. Fortunately, I was able to find one person who has been experiencing some sort of invisibility. Right here, a Reddit user named Vlad Armstrong said, quote, "In my case, it just gave me more bugs, or at least one I spot immediately. I can see my weapons sometimes. I had this bug before, but now way more often." End quote. This fella has for sure experienced the invisibility. The only problem here is that I'm not seeing anything about the downgraded weapons. Could this possibly be one of those bugs that just pops up completely random? And if you do come across it, I guess you're just lucky. That's with sarcasm. You're not lucky at all if you do come across this. I definitely missed out on a really awesome weapon, and maybe it will pop up again. Now, the next bug that I've been seeing around is the naked bug. So if you guys did not know, randomly an NPC can become completely naked. This Reddit user, Danhausen by Daylight, says, quote, "Is anybody else getting naked people since this update, or is it just me? Before, I only had one permanently naked NPC. Now I see new ones every time I go to a town." End quote. Then another Reddit user by the name of Thunder Oblivion said, quote, "I've had this happen quite often at Sidonia." End quote. There's really no way to run away from bugs in this game. I mean, it's just one of those things that pops up almost every single day, it feels like, at least when I read this stuff. The next bug that we're going to talk about has to do with ships, because I honestly have not experienced this one either, but to be honest, it probably sucks quite a lot. This Reddit user named Rich Blue Jay said, quote, "Anyone encountered this bug with boarding ships? Disabled a Varun eulogy and boarded. No one aboard at all, no bodies, nothing. I left it to blow it up, and it started shooting at me again." End quote. Now, in Starfield, there are various ship bugs going on. For example, your ship can be invisible, or other enemy ships are invisible. Potentially, your ship can merge underneath the ground. That's another possibility. If I could throw in my 2 cents, I would say things are going to progressively get worse. Because the last 2 months, there has been so many bugs. I mean, there's various issues going on in the game. And sure, they are making some changes to address these issues and resolve them, but overall, each time that they do update the game, more bugs pop up. And for whatever reason, the day 1 patch was probably the best patch that was ever released, because there were no issues involved. But now there's so many things going on, honestly, it's just kind of hard to keep track of. This is something to be worried about, because if they do decide to release DLC next year, which I would assume they would, then what happens if there's something like this that pops up that completely ruins the content? Or some of their other games that they plan on releasing, like Fallout 5 or Elder Scrolls 6. You're probably thinking, why would there be any issues? Those games are yet to be released. Well, while that's a fair point to make, I would say that we did not expect Starfield to have as many bugs or issues that it currently has now. This is why I think it's quite worrisome, because if those games are released and they have the same exact issues, you know, just bugs in general, I think that's going to turn away a good portion of the fan base. A great example would be Fallout 76, which was a complete disaster at launch. This game right here ruined Fallout for me. It was probably one of the worst ones I've ever played, probably the only worst Fallout game I've ever played, because everything else totally rocked. Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, you know, even the older ones. I mean, what the heck's going on with Fallout 76? It's completely crap. So I would hate to see the next Fallout or even the next Elder Scroll game to turn out just like that. Continuing on, last but not least, I'm going to be showing you how to bring the Starborn ship effect onto your Frontier ship, or pretty much any spaceship that you have available. What I'm about to show you was something I was supposed to include previously, but it did not make it in the video. These steps are quite simple. All you need to do is duplicate your ship by tapping LB and X and then changing the color. If done incorrectly, you will not see a duplicated ship, of course, but if done correctly, what you can do is then go over towards the ship that was once a Starborn, and you then want to make that your home ship. For example, if you have duplicated your Frontier ship and it has replaced the Starborn ship, that ship is going to have the Starborn effect, meaning you can then use the boosters and turn completely invisible. Well, that's pretty much how you do it. If you have enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you have any comments or questions or concerns or whatever the case may be, comment down below. I will definitely reply within the first hour or two if I do see it. Other than that, thank you guys so much for the support, and I will see you all in the next video.